Well, thank you for both joining me today. Welcome to the Student Policy Review podcast at the Harvard Kennedy School, your source for insightful discussions on contemporary topics and policy issues. I'm joined today by our two guests, first in order of seniority, I believe. Dr. Dennett is a renowned professor of philosophy, author, and cognitive scientist. He recently retired as the co-director of the Center for Cognitive Studies at Tufts University, where he'd been teaching since 1971 up until 2022. Covering a range of subjects beyond cognitive studies. Dr. Dennett is widely known for his influential work exploring consciousness, evolution, and the philosophical issues surrounding topics like free will and the mind. Some of his seminal books include Consciousness Explained, Darwin's Dangerous Idea, and From Bacteria to Bach and Back. A gifted thinker and writer, Dr. Dennett has authored over 400 scholarly articles and received numerous honors, including elections to the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. Born in 1942 in Boston, he earned his degrees from Harvard and Oxford before embarking on his pioneering academic career, examining the profound depths of human cognition and our place in the natural world. Now, he savors the tranquility of retirement in Maine. Riccardo is an entrepreneur and a current Harvard student, driven by a unique perspective on artificial intelligence. As the founder and CEO of Symbiotic, an AI startup, he challenges conventional thinking by advocating for AI systems that bridge the gap between advanced artificial general intelligence and the human experience. Riccardo's core philosophy centers around the idea that true intelligence transcends raw computational power, requiring a deep grounding in the fundamentally human aspects of cognition and experience. With Symbiotic, he aims to pioneer technology that fosters alignment and symbiosis between what he thinks is two antithetical forms of intelligence, advanced AI and the human mind. His current goal is to harmonize the strengths of artificial and biological intelligence through systems designed to unite these seemingly disparate species. Thank you again for joining us. Starting with you, Dr. Dennett. In Bacteria to Bach and Back, you explore how evolution can gradually accumulate immense competences, like the human mind through the blind process of natural selection, acting on competences and not comprehensions. But in regards to AI, is mere imitation learning through statistical pattern recognition enough to achieve models or agents that resemble human thinking, or should we find new ways to instill comprehension alongside competence in artificial minds?
The only way to learn is evolutionarily. It's trial and error, generate and test. That's the only non-magical way to learn anything. And so in that regard, large language models, for instance, are an example of the kind of learning that we do with our own brains. It's just in different media and with different amounts of data and so forth. But there's a bottom up is the only way you can go. I mean, it's not we haven't tried the other way. Good old-fashioned AI was top-down AI, where you tried to design the rational agent, the res cogitans, as Descartes would have put it, and that was actually a very fruitful exercise because it gave us a sense of what the competences had to be and how tremendously difficult it was to achieve them with top-down engineering. And although there are still a few people around who think that's the way to go, I think the general impression now in the field is that we should try bottom-up learning rather than top-down hand-built. Hand-built is beautiful, intelligent, but fragile.
I see. And Riccardo, in your perspective, how does this relate to some of the things that your team and your perspective, your position is exploring in terms of deep learning, or sort of what's your approach to this top-down or bottom-up approach?
Right. Yeah, I think the approach that we are taking at Symbiotic is trying to understand deep learning as a kind of first step towards more advanced models as well. So we kind of view deep learning's like recent accomplishment as just an initial step in a longer process of cultivating a kind of comprehension in artificial minds. So I think you should really see look at deep learning as a kind of pre-training phase. Perhaps the way you want to think about it is like, you have this pre-training phrase, accumulative foundational competencies that can then be grounded in richer comprehension. It's still, you know, open-ended question. I think that certainly the evolutionary trajectory is probably the best way to go, as we've seen in recent developments in transformer-based models. But there is also, I think, an understanding like how can we build rich representations of the world in these models, and the question really being, is like LLM architecture enough to achieve these more advanced representations of the world? Do we need to kind of bridge cognitive science and more like machine learning more, and integrate these more like old-fashioned techniques that Daniel was talking about as well into transformers, into these neural networks, and maybe we can find ways to basically comprise old-fashioned AI or like knowledge-based, rule-based models of learning with neural networks. Those are like open-ended questions that, you know, it's difficult to address, it's difficult to really answer. But certainly right now, the current hype in AI is based on this kind of evolutionary pattern recognition approach, which seems very promising and successful, and we still don't really see technical walls or like limitations to this approach just yet.